Come on in. Welcome to Idled Out, where we talk all things Survivor. My name is Luke, and today we're talking about the greatest alliance showdowns in Survivor history. Few things are as exciting in Survivor as a merge episode where two competing alliances finally get to throw down. These are the Survivor versions of an immovable object meeting an unstoppable force. So today, I thought it would be fun to go through Survivor history and look at some of the best and most exciting alliance showdowns, who won out, and who, if anyone, budged. In my ranking, I'll be considering not only what actually happened, but how well the show establishes the stakes, the players involved, and overall how well the story is told. But the criteria is simple. Two alliances of roughly equal size going head to head, with most everyone completely resolute in their convictions, with a clear victor when the dust settled. So pull the purple rock, make sure you don't have any past votes, and take your seat over there as we take a look at the best alliance showdowns in Survivor history. At number 5 is Solana versus Apari, seen in Survivor Cagayan, aka Tony's alliance versus Spencer and Tasha's alliance. The clash between these two alliances produced perhaps the single most exciting merged tribal council of all time. Post-swap, most of the players threw brains, brawn, and beauty out the window. On Solana, Tony and Trish betrayed Cliff and Lindsay and joined with LJ and Jeffra to form the majority, eventually looping Wu back in despite blindsiding him, because, like a good puppy dog, he can't stay mad too long. And on Apari, the three brains coalesced a fractured beauty tribe and the only former brawn, Sarah, around them. Heading into the merge, both alliances were determined to stick together and pick the other off. Spencer and Tasha actually had the numbers at the merge. This alliance should have won out. They were up 6-5. They had a lot of strategic and non-conceited players on their side, and though Sarah ultimately flirts with the idea of flipping back to Tony, she decides to stick with her new alliance, since, Tony literally shouted top 5 at the previous immunity challenge, and that 5 did not include her. Yep, we're all in this together. Right, Cass? Cass was so annoyed with Sarah dangling a potential flip over their heads that she just decides to flip herself, betraying her old brain tribe mates to join up with Tony and Trish. Ironically, it was Trish that flipped Cass to their side, and Cass would later flip on Trish down the line in a different way. The deadlocked alliance and unexpected flip by Cass produces inarguably one of the best tribal councils of all time. Tony and LJ both play idols on each other, only for that not to matter at all because Jeffra was the Apari target, only for that not to matter at all because Cass actually did flip and Sarah goes home. This crazy tribal set the course for the rest of the season, as Solana would proceed to pick off the rest of Apari with some detours. Two completely resolute alliances, the minority misplaying all their firepower, and a shocking flip. Good stuff. Plus, I believe Spencer breaks the world land speed record for neck movement. At number 4 is Ogakor versus Chocha in Survivor Australia. Survivor's first season also had a 5v5 merge, but I don't think anyone would ever argue that Pagong and Tagi were competitive equals, considering Pagong got beaten by a guy who voted alphabetically. In Season 2, Ogakor versus Chocha was our first taste of two roughly equal tribes going head-to-head, each member 100% unwavering in their alliance. Both alliances entered the merge anticipating a deadlocked 5-5 vote, and the only question was who each alliance would target. Would it be the strategic centers of the tribe, the strong challenge beasts carrying the tribe on their back, or the miscellaneous? Well, actually, back in the day, ties were resolved by past votes, meaning whoever had the most votes cast against them at previous tribal councils would go home in a tie situation. In one of many underrated genius moves by Tina, she stepped down during immunity to grant the Ogakor with the most past votes, Keith, individual immunity, leaving Chocha at a loss on who to vote for. And Ogakor knew Jeff Varner had a vote against him because Kimmy blabbed it at this challenge on day 5, so Ogakor threw their votes on Jeff. Chocha went for Colby, who they mistakenly believed was on the outs, and in the deadlocked 5-5 tie, Jeff Varner's past vote from Deb cost him the game, leading to Chocha's eventual downfall. What's wild is that Chocha probably takes control at the merge if Mike Scoopin doesn't fall in the fire. They probably pick off Ogakor one by one, and someone like Roger or Alicia wins. But considering this entire tribe turned out to be more cursed than a mysterious unmarked Japanese videotape, I think we're all pretty happy with how things shook out. At number 3 is Zeke's Alliance versus David's Alliance at the final 10 of Survivor, Millennials vs. Gen X. Alliances do not get more deadlocked than being forced to randomly draw rocks for elimination after 2 tie votes. And this episode does a great job at telling the story of how David and Zeke ultimately went to war. These two were initially close in Millennials vs. Gen X, but as the merge wore on, it became clear that they were each other's biggest threats, and they each independently began laying the seeds of a blindside against the other. Much of episode 11 is dedicated to the two of them marshaling the troops to take each other out, with David courting his old Gen X allies Ken and Jessica, and looping in Adam and Hannah, who both kind of wanted to step out from Zeke's shadow. And Zeke uses his old connections with Chris to bring in Brett and Sunday, and then Jay and Will just need a home, so they join up with him too. It heads into a tribal council where lines are openly drawn between the two sides, leading to 2 tie votes between Zeke and David's ally Hannah. Probst gives them an ultimatum. If a consensus cannot be reached by the other 8 on whether Zeke or Hannah should go, everyone else will draw rocks. It's truly crazy to have so many players so committed to their side in this war that they're willing to go down with the ship this early on, at final freaking 10. But that's what happens. In what is only the 3rd time players have ever gone to random rock draw for elimination, Jessica is rocked out of the game after being one of the only vocal anti-rock figures, dealing a blow to David's alliance, which he actually rapidly recovers from because Will flips for no reason the next episode, handing David's side the numbers to steamroll Zeke and the rest of his alliance, which is what happens. Dude, you just put your game on the line in a 1 in 6 chance of being eliminated by default. You're not gonna ride that out for at least a round? At number 2 is the Koyopa boys versus the singles, or Josh's side versus Jeremy's side in Survivor, San Juan del Sur. This is the only Merge Alliance showdown so epic they end it on a cliffhanger with the Survivor equivalent of a to be continued. The San Juan del Sur alliances really crystallized post-swap, with Jeremy and Josh leading competing alliances to war at the merge. On Jeremy's side are most of the singles, peoples whose loved ones had already been voted out of the game, including himself and his 2 close allies, Natalie and Julie, plus mom and daughter pair Missy and Baylor. On Josh's side are most of the remaining pairs in the game, including himself and his boyfriend Reed, father-son pair Keith and Wes, as well as Alec. Drew's is still in the game, in our hearts. In the middle are John and Jacqueline, a couple who masterfully positioned themselves as swing votes throughout most of the game. With alliance lines drawn 5-5 at the merge, both sides are actively courting the power couple by offering them safety, building interpersonal connections with them, and treating them like shit.
Yo, girls, keep this fire going.
Yeah, okay.
No, Natalie will do it. I don't know if they will.
Did you hear what he said?
Well, I never said all those strategies were created equal. Initially, it actually looks like John and Jacqueline are going to side with the Koyopa boys and blindside Jeremy, until Julie quits. With Julie gone and Tribal Council canceled, this episode ends on the rare Survivor cliffhanger, the Alliance showdown postponed for another day. Ironically, Jeremy's own ally quitting on him probably saved him because Jacqueline decides in the next episode to defect to Jeremy's side after Keith, Wes, and Alec are rude to her while John is at exile. And once he returns, Jacqueline convinces him to join her in voting out Josh. The stakes were set up over 2 episodes, the swing votes were established, and the crazy thing is, John and Jacqueline flip right back and blindside Jeremy next. They really just wanted to set Edgic on fire, didn't they? The greatest alliance showdown of all time is Savay versus Upolu in Survivor South Pacific. These are probably the 2 most evenly matched tribes of all time. This is one of only a handful of seasons where immunity changed hands between the 2 tribes every single episode, leading to both tribes making the merge with 6 members each. Almost all of them so rock solid in their alliance they were willing to go to rocks. Upolu was particularly resolute. Coach pretty successfully built his own little cult here, bonding his tribe together by exploiting their faith. His fellow castaways either naive enough to buy in, or smart enough to fake it and go along for the ride. Savay, in contrast, only had the facade of unity. Ozzy thought he was the leader so much that he was willing to get voted out and come back via Redemption Island to keep his tribe's numbers, but the power really resided with Jim, Whitney, and Keith. And Dawn, and especially Cochran, were on the outs. Heading into the merge, Cochran was supposed to play double agent and get intel from Coach so that Savay could play their hidden immunity idol correctly. But Cochran takes his Benedict Arnold role a little too seriously. You're not actually supposed to defect, Cochran. I'll give Coach this. The way he worked Cochran is truly masterful. Coach offers Cochran safety and respect if he flips to Upolu, whereas Jim was offering Cochran going home via random rock drop and possibly getting shoved into a locker later. Cochran flipping is probably the wrong strategic choice if your goal is to win, but it's understandable nonetheless. Though the initial vote is an expected 6-6 tie between Keith and Rick, with everyone intending to go to rocks, Cochran flips to Upolu on the revote, eliminating Keith and dooming Savay and the viewers to a pagonging so boring they shoved 5 boots into 3 episodes. By playing their idol on him, or even simply treating him with more respect so he feels like he's part of the team, Savay definitely could have kept Cochran onside on this vote, and they were statistically more likely to come out ahead on the random rock draw. Oh well, even if they lost the game, maybe they learned a lesson on treating others with dignity.
You got a lot to learn, buddy. You disgust me.
Oh, never mind. Got nothing else for ya. If you'd go to rocks for me, like and subscribe and I'll get you more Survivor content just like this. Until next time, don't get idled out.